The true story behind The Watcher on Netflix. We all might have heard of several horror stories during our childhood and were quite intrigued about them. Well, now there's a huge fan following and audiences who enjoy horror movies, series, and so on. The OTT as vivid shows, and one among the most popular and most watched shows recently is The Watcher, a true story-based Netflix series. Today, we will be looking into this true, unresolved story, which is spooky and horrifying, which has gained a lot of popularity and was once one of the most talked about in the news. Before we dive in, make sure to like and subscribe to Mystery Facts Rewind, because this is the #1 place for all of your mysteries. Let us go back to the bizarre tale of 657 Boulevard, one of the most haunting mysteries. In 1905, a beautiful, luxurious Dutch colonial-based house was built at Westfield in New Jersey and owned by Mr. John Woods and Mrs. Andrea Woods. They received a spooky letter around the month of May, days before they sold the house to Mr. Derek Brattis and Mrs. Maria Brattis, but they never took it seriously and threw them into the trash. The Woods sold this house for $1.3 million in 2014 to Mr. and Mrs. Brattis. Then it all changed when the new owners of the 657 Boulevard received a letter with no address. Mr. Derek Brattis was one of the ones who found this letter in their post and was surprised as it was an anonymous one. Later, he and his wife, Mrs. Maria Brattis, read the letter. The letter started well with no threat of sign or warning, but slowly it turned out to be scary and they were filled with fear once they finished reading. The letter was printed in cursive and this anonymous person stated that this house, 657 Boulevard, was watched by his family members for decades. He clearly mentions that it was watched by his grandfather in the 1920s, then watched by his father in the 1960s, and now it was his turn to watch. Then continued questioning the house owners if they knew what the history of the house was and what were the truths hidden inside the walls of this house and what brought them here so far to this house. Was it because they were greedy or was it something else? The most horrendous thing in it was about the children and mentioned he had seen the 3 kids. After reading the letter, this couple was extremely disturbed and worried about their safety. Hence, they rushed to seek help from officials. The officials read the letter and assured them to provide safety and that they need not worry. The Woods family, when interrogated, said that they never received such a letter until the end of May when they were about to sell the house. The officials later told the families to keep this news about the letter as a secret as the neighbors were also suspected. 2 weeks later, they again received this letter addressed to the Brattis family. The catch was that Brattis was misspelled, but the nicknames of their kids were rightly mentioned in the letter this time. The letter had minute details of their children, like if one of them was an artist, did the young boy play in the basement of the house, and so on. After receiving their second letter from The Watcher, the couple decided not to get their kids into this home anymore. They started investigating independently and hired a former FBI agent and a few experts to investigate this issue. The neighbors were keenly watched every single day, but they failed to notice anything creepy or abnormal. Later, Mr. John notices and learns about their neighbors, the Langford family. This family lived next door since 1960 and consisted of a woman named Mrs. Peggy Langford, along with her children Michael Langford and Abby Langford, who were adults. Michael was a suspect due to his strange behavior, but was later excluded from the list of suspects without any specific reasons. He was questioned twice but denied involvement. The Brattocks tried different ways, and one of them was informing the Langfords that they were going to demolish 657 Boulevard, but it failed drastically. The case had gotten nowhere as there was no further evidence like fingerprints, DNA, or anything which could lead the case further. The Brattocks family then decided to sell this house in 2015 and filed a lawsuit against the Woods for not disclosing anything about the letter that they had received earlier. It was too late by then as the news had spread everywhere and it became viral. All the media started covering and discussing this spooky incident. Once it was aired, it made the Braticks' issues worse as they had to now reveal and talk to their kids about this, which was a secret until then, and make them understand the seriousness of it. The Braticks went through a lot of mental trauma during this time. During the month of June, a council meeting was held and the Honourable Mayor Mr. Andy Skobitsky stated that due to the lack of evidence and no leads for the case to be taken further, the case shall be dismissed. But when the neighbours were interviewed by the media, they said that they were never asked or questioned about this, and several of them had their own different theories. It was then that a veteran detective, Mr. Baron Chambliss, took up the case. The first thing he did was to learn about Michael Langford, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, as the neighbours also felt he was extremely strange. The next step was a DNA analysis. It was a shocking revelation. They found a female fingerprint on the first envelope received by the Braticks. Once the results were received, the suspect was now Abby Langford, the sister of Michael Langford. The case was again at a standstill as the DNA profile did not match Abby. Abby was an agent and had recently lost the 657 Boulevard. It was initially thought that this was a revenge letter just to freak the family out. The Braticks were now extremely worried and hired more experts and sent the letter to a security firm to analyze the handwriting, but failed again. It was after all of this, one night Mr. Baron Chambliss found a woman stopped in front of the boulevard, but was found that she was just from neighbouring town who had come to meet her boyfriend. This young woman was interrogated and she revealed that her boyfriend was into very dark video games and played as a character named The Watcher. The so-called boyfriend of this young woman was called several times by the officials for interrogation sessions. This man never showed up for the sessions. Later, he was ruled out from the suspect list as there was not enough evidence against him. He was excluded without proper reasons, stating that they did not have enough evidence. After a few days, another family reported that they received a letter as such, but never took it seriously as they didn't feel it required their concern. They mentioned that the letter was not a concern nor bothered them, and it was thrown away into the trash. The Braticks were now suspected by most of the natives of New Jersey as this became viral news. The Westfield town ranked 30th in the list of America's safest towns after the huge exposure of these episodes of the incident. The locals suspected the Braticks family as they moved to such a huge, expensive, luxurious home even if they were not having assets worth buying. The natives started giving vivid theories like the Braticks themselves wrote the letters to increase the value of the property and so on. But it's far-fetched that a family would go through all this trauma for so many years just to increase the value of their property. The family had taken loans from their relatives to buy another house in Westfield. It was in 2016 when 657 Boulevard came back on the market with a worth of $1.2 million. A real estate agent even suggested selling this property to a developer. Unfortunately, even this failed due to the strong disagreement of the neighbours on the demolishment of this house. With this came another tragedy. The lawsuit filed against the Woods was dismissed too as it was not reasonable. The Braticks now sold this house eventually to another tenant and clearly mentioned a clause stating that they could leave the house whenever they received another letter. It seems the Braticks had a very hard luck, but guess what? They received another letter, but the new tenants were not too bothered about it. The tenants installed cameras and the price was even lowered to $400,000 or less. There is no more information that was made available on the new tenants. The case remained unsolved and made huge headlines in the international media too. Many offered to make a new movie on this incident, but the Braticks family denied the offer. Now Netflix has taken the rights and released a series named The Watcher based on the real story. The characters and the story are a little different from the real story, as they were said to not have complete similarity in the looks of the real characters or their family. Well, that's the end of this story. I hope you liked it, and for more such content, do subscribe to our channel and check out the other videos on our channel. Also, don't miss the chance to catch up on the new show, The Watcher, which is aired on Netflix. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.